Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom. We are back with another fantastic episode of Find Your Freedom. And before we get into this next guest, where we just certified his coolness, I might add, we have something absolutely free for you, easily downloadable. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. That's right, www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. Go get it. Easily downloadable. We did it. We made it just for you. Now, listen, our next guest, which we don't have guests here, we have friends, right? So we're going to sit here and put him in our friend category, but he has a really cool story that we really want everybody to tune in and listen to. We're going to get into his humble beginnings. The guy, real sexy dude, come from Brazil, and the cool thing about him is, kind of fast forwarding his story a little bit, is, all of us envy individuals who have a partnership with their wife, outside of just your regular partnership. And that's what he got, so we're going to have to hear all the gems and the secrets on how he did that and make that work. But man, he done had over 16 long-term rentals, over 9 short-term rentals, got a co-hosting business. So Felipe, what's up, man? How you feeling, brother?
Lenny, I'm feeling great, man. That was a great intro. I love it. The sexy, I can take that all day long.
There you go. But listen, man, before we start into your journey, because you really got a good one in, and I can't wait for all the listeners to hear it, but tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised in Brazil, I came to the US as a junior in high school, and it was supposed to be a 1-year thing and pack my bags and go home. But, life happens. I met my now wife and high school sweetheart. I was like, Mom, I gotta go back for college. I'll come back home after college, just give me 4 more years. And came back for college, got an engineering degree, started working in tech. Had a pretty successful career in tech for almost 10 years. But a few things happened during that time that it just really made me realize that this is not what I want anymore. I had this big dream of joining a company and growing director, VP, CEO. And then I was like, I don't want this anymore. I want to start my own thing. So back in 2020, my wife and I, like you said, we partnered, started into real estate, follow the bigger pockets route of how can I get as many doors as I want. And then, with long-term rentals, realized I wasn't making any money with that. So shifted to short-term rentals. And, over the last couple of years, we've built an $8 million portfolio that allowed me to finally quit that job in tech and really focus on building the business and growing the business in real estate.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to rewind because one, I gotta applaud you. So you came from Brazil, you found the love of your life. This is not something. So what was the initial plan? So you're gonna go do the exchange student. So walk us through that even experience, because I think a lot of people would be afraid to do an exchange sort of program at that age. And so you're coming to a foreign place, so like, where are you living? What is like the circumstances? Like how does that even happen? And you're this Brazilian guy, is probably like this exotic dude at school. Like, like I don't remember ever having an exchange student at my high school. So like, what does that even look like?
Yeah, no, it's actually a really interesting story. So when you decide to be an exchange student, at least for us in Brazil, you pick a country. You say, I want to go to the US, Canada, somewhere in Europe. That's all you pick. Then the company finds you a family, a city, a school, everything. And at the time, there was a lot of Brazilians wanting to be exchange students. So I remember being in the airport with my flight to the US, but I didn't have the last leg of my flight because they haven't found me a school yet. So they told me, hey, we finally found your school. It's in Texas. you're going to go to this little tiny school in Gatesville, Texas, which is about an hour and a half, very, very country in Texas. And I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, all I wanted was somewhere that I could go, live the whole high school American life and play soccer. It was like, cool with me. Interesting enough, so I land, and this guy picks me up at the airport, and I barely speak like very broken English, and all I can say is, "Do they have soccer?" And they're like, not at this school, but hold on, wait here. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm sitting on their couch, and this is the coordinators, right? They usually go to the coordinator's house. They introduce you to the program and all that stuff. So I'm in here in Texas, and she's like, hold off. And she goes upstairs, spends 2 hours, and she comes back and says, good news and bad news. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'm here. Just what is it? And she goes, so this school doesn't have soccer, but have this other school that my son goes to. It's a small Catholic school. They have soccer. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you really want it, I can work out a scholarship. We can make it work. I'm like, Mom,
Wow.
There you
my whole dream was to play soccer here. Like, let's make this happen.
go.
And so, I went to that high school. Again, that's where I met, it's that crazy little question that changed my entire life, because that's
Wow.
where I met my wife and why I decided to, eventually come back and still here.
Yo, that is an amazing story, man. That is super amazing. But let me ask you a quick question. All right, so you're here, man, and this is your first time. Well, how are you, like 15, 16 years old or something like
I
that?
was 17.
17,
Had just
okay.
turned 17, yeah.
Just turned 17, probably just getting a little hair on your chin, right?
Yep.
What was the craziest thing you saw? Like, you're 17, right? You're in Texas, so like, what was the craziest thing you saw?
Man. Well, I can tell the craziest thing for me is English was hard enough. With a thick country Texas accent, it was impossible. Like, my first 3 months here, I understood about 10% of what people said. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna make it work. And I remember at the time, I am still really close with my parents. Calling my mom, and like, Mom, I'm done. Like, I want to go home. Like, this is not for me. And she tells me about this to this day, and she's like, I made you stay. Little did I know that meant you're gonna be away from me for another 15 years after that. But honestly, besides that, I think the whole high school system here is very different than what I was used to in Brazil. In Brazil, I had grown with the same people and gone to the same school for 15 years.
Yep.
And so it was completely new, and it was a small. Well, actually, I'll tell you what the craziest thing is. We had 4 guys in my high school class. 4. Me, who was an exchange student from Brazil. There was a 21-year-old dude from South Korea in high school. And then there was 2 American guys, a black guy and a white guy.
You're kidding me, man.
Yeah.
Are you really in Texas right now?
Yeah. So, and I'm still really good friends with all 4 of them. And so that whole experience was very crazy in itself. It was a tiny high school. They had soccer. We got 3rd in state that year, so that was awesome.
Okay.
But the whole experience was just like very unique.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely sounds super unique. So you're in this position where you're across the country. You have an image of what you're gonna experience. It's probably way different than what you ever imagined. I guess the question I have is, I think that happens in entrepreneurship, or even like people who jump into real estate. They're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go in and I'm just gonna kill it and I'm gonna make millions. And so walk us through how you're able to stay focused and kind of stay the course, because I think that's such a hard thing to do just in anything.
For sure. No, honestly, I think it comes down to, planning for the long term is good to give you a vision, to give you something to work towards, but life always changes. Like, I've never gotten my 5-year plan right. I was, after I graduated from college, I was like, I'm going to join this company. I'm going to grow. I'm going to be director. And then I got an offer to go to tech in California. So backed myself, went to California. Thought I was going to be in tech for another 20 years. Real estate happened. left that to now focus on real estate. And so every time, just like life just throws you new things at you, and as long as you're open to different opportunities and meeting the right people and keep working on how can I get better, and take on those opportunities, you never know what's going to happen. So for me is, honestly, I don't focus what's going to happen even in 2 years. I focus what do I need to do over the next few months to get me to my bigger life vision, and the how and the what kind of changes as we go.
That's good, man. That's pretty interesting because you always hear everybody saying, you gotta sit here and have a 1 year plan and a 5 year plan and a 10 year plan and the 25 year plan. I just was like, man, when I got to 10, I just was like, yeah, that's it for me. I can't, I only use where I can, but it's just like, So, so it's interesting. So, you sit back and you say, hey, I'm just going to focus on this next quarter. Right.
Mhm.
And so how do you do your goals, man? Like how do
Mhm.
you see things, in the future? Because some things take much longer than a quarter, right?
Mhm.
Uh, to happen, might
Mhm.
take 6 months, could take a year, so if you're just really focused on that quarter, like how, like, do you see things like you want to do in a year? Like how do you work that out?
No, absolutely, and I do, and I still have my long-term goals. I'm just flexible with them. I'm okay if things change. I can adapt and I can shift my focus. Right? It's as long as I'm keeping the biggest thing for me is you know measuring my progress along the way, and if something's working out, great. Let's double down on that. If something's not working out, I need to complete shift my focus. Let's do it. Um, my long-term goals are less goals and more of a vision. I know what I want from my family in the long term. How I'm going to get there, that's what I adjust as I go, right? And I think um, here's a good analogy. I was struggling with drinking enough water every day, right? And I knew I had to drink more water. So I got this bottle here that I know I need to drink 2 of these every day, and there's the hours marked throughout the day. So I know what I need to do. During the course of the day, I know if noon comes in, I'm still my first bottle, I'm behind, right? So I think um, again, the vision here is I need to drink more water. I need to drink in order to be healthier, and then putting some things in place to kind of measure that progress. And if this bottle doesn't work, if I need a bigger one, I'll change it. So the bigger thing is, have a vision, put a plan in place, be flexible to adjust that plan as needed, and keep working towards that vision.
So
Awesome.
I think that's powerful because you have to be flexible. I think there's this like you have your ideals and your vision, but things are going to come up. And I know Mike Tyson, it's like the quote, like you have a plan until you get punched in the face.
In face.
And so I guess when did so you're this tech guy, and I feel like a lot of people in the tech space, their skill set translates really well into real estate. Like I know a lot of successful people that had tech backgrounds. So when is a crossroads of like, hey, real estate is the thing? Like, when did you decide, hey, I have this plan. I got, I'm Brazilian. I was going to go home. That never happened. Then I'm like, then I was going to live this American dream. And then I'm working this crazy, tech, life that I wanted. And then at what point you're like, hey, this is not for me. And real estate is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
how did you make that decision?
Yeah, for sure. I think so 2 moments that made me come to the decision, and then I'll tell you why real estate. But number one, so let's go back to 2019, right? So before the pandemic, I was traveling like crazy. I was going to Asia every other month or so. And at the time, my wife and I had just had our second born, so our second kid. And I had to go spend 2 weeks in Asia and leave my wife behind with my newborn and a 2-year-old. And I just remember just my heart really being really, really heavy on that plane. I'm like, this sucks that I'm doing this to my wife. The money is great. I'm making more money than I ever dreamed I would at this moment. But again, I'm traveling. My wife is going to have a terrible time for 2 weeks. And, that's not what I want. Right. So that was the moment that I realized I want to do something else. Then fast forward a little bit longer, that 6 months later, I was working at Uber at the time, the self-driving car. Awesome project, really cool tech. And they sold the entire division. So that dream job, even though it was difficult, they sold the division. My entire team got impacted and got let go. I don't need anybody to feel sorry for me because like they gave a good severance, like, so like I'm not complaining about that
Yep.
piece, but then
Yep.
it kind of, the light bulb came on and like, I'm not in control of my future. Again, they're sending me to Asia. I just lost my job. And I was like, I need to start something. And I still remember sitting in my son's bedroom, putting him to sleep, Googling best franchises to own. And I was like, I just wanted a business. So unlike a lot of real estate investors who knew that's what they wanted to do, I wanted to create a business. And by doing that, I'd start to learn about some real estate franchises and wholesaling franchises, and decided that, this may be interesting, that the cost to entry is low. Kind of my analytical engineering background. There's opportunity to make money in the short term. There's opportunity to create some long-term wealth. Let's do it. And my wife is a champ. Like every time I come up with this crazy idea, she's like, okay, let's do it. And she kind of like, helps with so I come up with the crazy ideas, and she and I work on implementing those ideas together. So yeah, that's when we started in real estate. And for me, speed, everything I do in life, I always try to go as fast as I can, so I can either succeed as quickly as I can or fail as quickly as I can. Right. So in the first 2 years in real estate, we got 16 long-term rentals. And at the time, where everyone is like, that's awesome, man, you're killing it. But then I would look at my P&L and be like, we lost money this last year. Like, how am I killing it? And a combination of things, tenants moving out and leaving damage, and AC going out. So again, I pivoted. I was like, okay, let's adjust. Kind of like I said earlier, let's adjust. I shifted to short-term rentals. We actually tried short-term rentals by accident, and I can tell a little bit more about that in a little bit. And once again, went all in. We now have almost, over the last 2 years, less than 2 years now, a year and a half, we've bought 9 short-term rentals.
Let me jump in real quick. Because I don't want to glance over a couple of things that you mentioned, which is really good, right? First and foremost, I do want to mention some things that you're saying. One of my mentors told me, money loves speed, right? And so you saying, hey, I'm just trying to get to market, and do things as fast as I can, and we need the listeners to understand that, right? It's like, hey, you're not going to have all the pieces to the puzzle, but you need to start putting that puzzle together now and not tomorrow when you get all the pieces, right? The pieces will start to come as you implement. Another thing too, I heard, it says, be stubborn with your vision, but flexible with your goals, right? And it sounds like that's what, you are doing. But hey, the 16 long-term rentals, you did that in a very short period of time. Right. So, I don't know your situation. I don't know if, you're got a whole bunch of ton of money or anything like that. But, 1 year, I believe you said 16, properties, regardless of what the entry point is, that takes a lot of money. So if you don't mind, how did you do it? Was it through partnerships? Was it through hard money lending? Maybe your parents or something, wrote you $1 billion check? I don't know. Let us know.
Yeah, no, none of those, unfortunately. That would have been a lot easier. So two things. One was we leveraged the Burr method a lot. That's one. But on top of that, we also leverage a lot of hard money lenders. So everything that we bought, we follow a very specific formula that we knew if we follow this, we can have our house, our remodel, everything financed by a lender. That is, 70% of after repair value minus repairs. That was our purchase price. So as long as we bought within that formula, so just to give a real example here, let's say the after repair value, let's make it easy, is 100,000, and the repair is 20,000. So 70% of 100,000 is 70,000 minus 20. We're not buying that house for more than $50,000. So by doing that, we're able to, put money in, fix up the place, refinance, use the same money to buy the next one. So we're basically buying one house every 1 or 2 months, in the beginning, and then scaling up faster. And that's what allowed us to just grow really, really fast. And I keep saying we, because I think it's important to mention here, like, it's my wife and me. Like, it's a dual, it's a team right here, right? And we work perfectly together because I have my engineering analytical background, but I can't look at our hammer and know what to do with it. I literally, like, I am the worst handy person who ever meet in your life. And my wife is the complete opposite. She has a background in interior design. Her parents have a construction company, so she grew up among that environment. So, I found the deals, I financed them, and then handed off to her, and she remodeled it, make it look really, really nice, hand it back
Nice.
to me for the operations, and we kept growing.
So Felipe, I think you're talking my language. You say you're not handy at all. I mean, that's me 100%. So I knew you're like my brother from another mother just when you said that, because like my wife, she's if something's broken, she doesn't come to me. She just goes and fixes it because she knows if she tries to give me a tool, something
Yeah.
wrong is gonna happen. So yeah, there
Oh,
you
yeah.
go.
All my friends know that my wife is the man of the house. Like, whenever they
There
try
you go.
somebody
Yeah. Same here. She has like the masculine role in my household too. Like it's I'm the crier, I'm the one that has feelings, and she has no feelings, right? She's like, she's just like tough as nails, and that's why we make a good partnership ourselves. So the Burr method. So I think the Burr method became really popular with bigger pockets over the years, and I think it's a great way to kind of get your feet wet. So what are like some learning lessons of you do it and then you actually kind of go through the full cycle, and then at what point you're like, hey, maybe I'm gonna test out something else. Like what are like some things that you learned that you could apply to other, I guess, what you're doing
Yes.
now in the short-term rentals?
I think, kind of going back to what we discussed earlier, be very clear on what your vision and what you're trying to accomplish. And that was a mistake that I made. I knew I wanted to replace my income, so that was clear. But how to do it, I did it the wrong way. If I had thought it like, what is the best way to replace my income, I would have gone into short-term rentals from the get-go, right? I thought, being the whole bigger pockets environment, you hear how many doors you have, So to me, it was like, how can I get as many doors as I can, as fast as I can? So I think if I would have done it over, I would have been, so not only clear on my vision, but clear on what is the best way to accomplish that, and kind of work backwards from there. The Burr method works really, really well to make you grow quicker, but at the same time, you can do a Burr on a short-term rental and a long-term rental. You can do, today people are doing Burr in hotels in the commercial space, right?
Yeah.
And it's all so. How are you going to do it, and why is what I wish I had been more clear, because I think I would have expedited my journey by a significant amount of time and saved us a bunch of money and mistakes in the process.
You know what? I think it happened the way it was supposed to. And,
Yes.
and I tell a lot of people that, because you may have never known to do short-term rentals without you doing the long-term rentals. Like, everybody has a journey,
Yes.
and, and I always say, a lot of people you don't start. I'm saying, let me get this right. Hold on. I know me is going to correct me if I get this wrong, because this is good, right? Where you start, you don't end up. Right. And that's the truth. Hey, Omi, right? Omi, you started with long-term rentals as well, right?
Yeah.
Now you're knee deep in the short-term rentals, right? And so I think, the journey is important, for everyone. But hey, man, you mentioned that your wife wear the pants around the house, right? I guess, how did you guys, like, one of the things that a lot of people would love to do is have their significant other in the business, right? And like, what was that conversation like? And how did it all come about? And are there any advice or tips you can provide other individuals who would love for their spouse to actually come into their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest lesson that we learned is have the conversation on expectations early on, because that's something that we didn't have, and we have very different styles. Like, I'm used to thinking about business 24/7, and I can easily go from business to family and then go back to business, and I'm okay with that. My
Mhm.
wife is there in this moment, she's either being a businesswoman, a mom, or a wife. Like, she's not doing all three at the same time, right? And it took us about a year to learn that we had different styles, and how to adjust to each other's styles. Like, so today, for example, if I'm sitting in bed next to her and I come up with a business idea, I know it's I better not talk about it in bed at 9 p.m. when watching Netflix. So I literally get my phone and send my wife an email, hey, let's talk about this tomorrow. And so learning how to work with your spouse is super, super critical, because, it's different than just being a husband, just being a wife. You're being business partners as well. And she has her own ambitions as a business owner as well. She has her own interior design firm. So how can I support her? How can we build our life in a way that the business doesn't get ahead of our relationship, of our kids? And at the end of the day, our goal here is to build a business to support our life and our family, not the other way around, right? We don't want our family working for our business the whole time and taking away time from our family, from our kids, and so on. So again, the biggest thing is aligning expectations and what you expect out of each other. When is business time, when it's not? What is the best way to communicate? And if you have those things aligned, I think you're in a really good spot to make a good partnership with your spouse.
Awesome.
So Felipe, you have 3 kids, right? Is it 3 kids?
Three kids.
Okay, so you have 3 kids. Okay. So I come across a lot of people who have W-2 jobs. They're kind of interested in doing the transition into real estate. I think the struggle sometimes comes with the fact that, there's children, and balancing the work, the family, the wife, all these things, and then getting everybody on the same page. So do you have like a process around like how frequently to talk about it, or how to do it? Like, I know there's like times for like, hey, I want to do sexy time at this time. Like sometimes we can't plan for that. It happens, right? But like, let's say for like financial goals, or even like targeting a strategy, what is some advice for somebody who's maybe just on the fence, and they like been thinking about it for a long time, but they just haven't actually done it because they use the excuse of, I have the kids, oh, I have this, oh, I'm overweight and I need to go exercise, or I'm, it's like one excuse over other. So what would you say to somebody who's like almost there, but not quite?
From starting the business perspective?
Yeah, just like starting a business into the real estate space or into entrepreneur space.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what we talked earlier. And what is your vision? What do you want out of this? Like, I'm telling you, if you're going to start a business just to start it, there is absolutely no way you're going to follow through, because it is difficult. Like, I quit my job and I'm working over 12 hours a day, daily, on this business right now, right? And this is now that I quit my job. Before, it was 8 to 10 hours on the W-2 plus the extra hours on the business. So it is difficult, but what kept pushing me is I know the opportunities ahead of me, and I know what that vision is, what I want to build for my family. I know what I don't want my kids to have to go through over the next, many years. And that's what pushes me, right? Is, having that vision, converting that into actions, and delivering it through. But again, I think sometimes the idea of starting a business is sexy, right? I own my business. Okay. Are you willing to put in the work to make that happen? Right? Are you willing to make the sacrifices that come with that? So honestly, I wouldn't try to convince someone if they're on the fence. Like, either you want it or you don't. And if you do, go all in and go fast. And if you're gonna fail, failure is fine. It's cool. Like, fail fast and move on, adjust and go to the next thing.
Yeah, listen, I'm teaching some kids real estate. So I put together this real estate and financial literacy classes, right, for middle schoolers and high schoolers and college kids. And one of the clips I played for them was Michael Jordan, right? And Michael Jordan said, he failed a lot and he missed 26 game winning shots. And I played that thing 4 times in a row, to let them know that the greatest of all great, right, failed as well. And he still ended up great. So failing, is fine.
Mhm.
So I'm happy that you shared that. Now, one of the things with business, everybody love to say, "Hey, man, I got an LLC," like you said, right? They got an LLC. Boy, they flash that in front of your face really quick. You're like, okay, that just means you have limited liability. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah.
But on another note, man, business is not always peaches and cream, right?
Mhm.
And I know that you had some things go on, with you being sued and all these things. I
Mhm.
guess, share some of the horror stories when it comes to business and what you have to do to get out of
Yeah. This is an interesting story. I'll tell you what the plan was, and I'll tell like you said, when you get punched in the face, your plan goes to shit. Like that's basically what happened. We purchased a house. This is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and if if you see houses in the Midwest, a lot of times they're in pretty bad shape. And we purchased a house for $34,000, dirt cheap. We knew we'd have to spend about $100,000, and then once we do that, and kind of the Burr method here, you can see, right? Once we spend the $100,000, it's worth north of $200,000. And the plan was to do a 6-month remodel, list the house, and move on. Well, two things happened. That house had a major foundation issue, and in order to fix the foundation issue, the contractor got on my neighbor's lot, and he excavated all over. It was an empty lot. He excavated through the neighbor's lot to fix the foundation. The neighbor sued us and said, "You're not supposed to get on my lot. This is not okay. I want you to pay me $25,000 for the damage you caused to my lot, the empty lot." Back and forth, took about 3 months of just that alone. We end up settling for $2,000. I'm like, "Dude, take $2,000. Let's move on." And he's like, "Okay, look, done." Then the contractor fixed the foundation wall, which was the reason why he wasn't the neighbor's lot in the first place. And they told me they had got the right permits to fix the lot. Well, as soon as they fixed it, we got a notification from the city saying, "You have a unsafe structure." I'm like, "What do you mean it's unsafe? We just fixed the foundation wall." They're like, "You never got a permit for it." I'm like, you kidding me? So the city sued us for building a foundation wall and not getting the right permits. And that took over a year and a half to resolve, where
Wow.
we could not do any work to the house whatsoever. It took us, we had to hire lawyers and pay a bunch of legal fees. We finally convinced the city that the wall that we had built was, appropriate and up to code. And we finished the remodel, and at the end, everything worked out. But really, the biggest thing here is over 2 years, the same house, only with problems, a punch after another punch of issues and problems. And at the end, we made a lot of money on it for two reasons: perseverance and problem solving. Like every time a new
Mm.
problem came in, we found a way to resolve it. Every time a new issue came up, we're like, how can we get over this and keep moving? And I think honestly, that is the biggest reason that sets successful real estate investors from the ones that fail. Is, are you willing to solve problems, get creative ways to solving problems, and persevere and be persistent, I should say. If you got those two, I mean, you have 90% of your success guaranteed in real estate. Is keep pushing, keep solving problems, and you'll be fine.
Mm.
So I like that. I think it's there's always going to be issues. So I think what people don't realize is they're just going to go into real estate and just crush it. They watch some of those Instagram videos. Oh, that's so easy. You just like spend 1 hour a week and you're going to kill it and you make thousands of dollars. But the reality is what you have to really develop is this resilience and ability to kind of deal with things as they come, and they're going to come. And there's going to be issues, and you just got to be prepared. And if you have the tolerance for that, and you'll be successful. So I guess my question is, you did the Burr, you had some, good stories, bad stories. Then you transition into short-term rentals, and that seems to be like the niche that you've been successful with. So how did you identify, because I know this is the $1 million question, how do you identify like a market? Like how you identify a market, and then also then break it down to identify like the right property, so you're in a position to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's $1 million question, and I think that's what holds most investors from even ever starting. Is what market should I invest in? My philosophy around that is honestly, don't overthink it. Choose one or two markets, focus on one or two markets only, get to know the market really, really, really well. Um, if it works, great, keep going. If it doesn't, shift your attention to some other market and do the same thing, right? The two markets I'm mostly invested in is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which it's the most unsexy market there is in real estate, but we do really, really well there. And then we have a Crystal Beach in Texas. So I think for me was I already had a process and a system and a team in Pittsburgh, and I actually tried the short-term rental by accident. It was something that I think Len, you said everything happens for a reason, and this reason here was we were doing a flip. We over remodeled the house, and we were going to make very little, if maybe even lose money during that flip. So we're like, this won't make money as a long-term rental. Let's throw it on Airbnb, and it worked. And we were like, in Pittsburgh, like who comes here? Like why? And then we started learning more, and we are like, okay, well, they have a bunch of hospitals there, a bunch of universities, 3 major sports teams. So again, a market that is really, again, not super attractive, but we founded 3 or 4 neighborhoods that make a great Airbnb. And I know that because I went so deep into that market versus like trying to find the best markets. What is the best market? I don't care. My market works. Let me double down and keep going deeper, right? So again, so we tried short-term rental. It worked. We tried a couple more, and kind of like back what I said earlier. When I go in, I go all in. So over the next 2 years, you went from 1 accidental short-term rental to 12 by end of the year, and it all happened because 1, we were willing to fail. We took action. We're willing to try a new strategy, and it worked. And once it worked, once we validated that plan, we went all in. And here we are, 2 years later.
Boom, 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 boom. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Hey, listen. So you once again, man, I got my same question, right? Hey, you said the parents ain't writing the $1 billion check, right? So you also said that you're losing money on your LTRs, right? So the scale to 9 properties, with the STR game. All right, brother, how did you do it?
Yes, I'll tell you how I started and then how I went from there, right? So my first initial properties were, using the money that I made in my W-2 from compensation, stocks, all that. So I started with that. And that got me to kind of validate the model. So
hold on 1 second. You said what? You said stocks? You use some of your stocks? Like, can you just like explain that too? Because people, I don't want to glance over that, right? So if you don't mind, can go deep. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're working in a tech company, the majority of tech companies, they will give you a base salary and then stock compensation on top of that. And really what tech companies bet on, that's kind of the golden handcuff, is that, hey, your stock is going to, 2x, 3x, 4x, whatever, right? And by the way, that never happened for me. That's why I took all the money out and put into real estate. But that's what got my initial funding per se, right? That got me to validate the model. Does this really work? And once it worked, once I did it 3-4 times, that's when I started leveraging 2 other things: private money and partnerships. So the majority of our houses are fully owned by us, but we were borrowing people from, hey Lenny, by the way, if you want to use private money, call people right now, end of the year. And they're looking for ways to give money away for taxes, so they minimize their taxes income. Like, hey Lenny, I'm doing this real estate thing in Pittsburgh. I need 150 grand to purchase and rehab this house. I'll give you back within 3 to 6 months at a 10% interest rate, right? So a lot of our houses were bought doing that, private money, leveraging private money. And then the third one, the third tool.
Let me just so to be clear, you were doing the Burr method on those properties.
Burr
right?
method, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. So you was borrowing 150, buying the property, rehabbing it after a certain time frame, refinancing the money back out, paying everybody off.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay.
And then doing it over again, and then finding other property, doing it again, and just keep going. Right. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Exactly. And then the last one that we did, even doing that, we still had to pay people interest and all that, right? So it got to a point that we ran out of money. Like, there's no more stock money. There's no more. We're paying all this private money. So let's leverage partnerships. And at this point, we had developed our processes, our systems, our teams, and I was bringing a lot to the table, right? I knew how to analyze deals, how to operate them. So now I'm saying, Lenny, do you want to get into short-term rentals? I'll help you. I'll bring all this knowledge to the table, all these tools, and we'll operate them. But I need you to help me come up with the down payment and really come up with all the cash to bring that property to life. So again, that was the latest tools in the tool belt. And I think as we continue to go through the process, we're always looking to add new ways to grow and get new properties.
I like that. It's I like how you've been able to apply different strategies, and it's kind of evolved as you've kind of built more tools in your tool belt, and you kind of realize, oh, there's different ways that you can apply what you've learned from like the BRRRR, raising private money, to the STR strategy with like cash flow. So what's next? Like, so what are you doing now? Like, what's a like short-term plan that you have set up for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So in the short term, we're working on two things. We are continuing to grow our short-term rental portfolio. We are working with a couple partners, and we'll have a few more houses over the next few months. So that's kind of its own business, and it continues to grow. What is new for us, we're also launching a co-hosting business now. So there is a lot of people who have properties in that they don't know how to fully optimize them. So we're coming in and helping those people put them on Airbnb and manage it for them. And I think that's for the next 12 months is to continue to grow our business from a ownership and co-hosting perspective.
I love it, man. Listen, it's so much things we didn't tap in on, and there's so many things I want to. And it seems like you jump in the pool, right? And then you end up in the ocean somehow. So now you're jumping in the co-hosting pool. We need to have you back on. All right, when you tell us about the ocean, because that's your journey. It's like, hey, I start here, but I end up here, which is kind of like the big fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely want to have you back on. But until then, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Finding your freedom means not being forced to go to China when you have a newborn at home. And that is a very personal moment for me, when I really struggled when I had to leave my wife and with a baby at home. So, what does that mean? Is, again, being in control of your own future. Like, if I want to go to a conference next week for real estate, and if I want to go, I'll go. I'll make sure my life is ready for it. My family is ready for it. But I'm not being forced to go. I'm doing it because I want to. So finding your freedom, again, is being in control of your own life, being in control of what you're doing, when you're doing, and how much you're doing it, versus honestly being told what to do, which is what most people unfortunately have to go through.
Felipe, I love the answer, and just like you said, you go to a conference, and that's where I last saw you. I saw you at the STR Growth Summit. So it's you got to choose when you want to travel, at what point, and kind of whenever you decide. So now, if I don't find you at this conference, where am I going to find you? So how do people connect with you?
It's pretty easy. That handle in all social media is Invest with Felipe. So Felipe is FELIPE. Invest with Felipe.
That got to be the coolest handle I ever heard in my life.
There you go.
So easy.
I know.
How is that one not taken? That's what I'm surprised about.
That's what I thought. Great. And I tried Felipe Caldeira, but like there was 1,500 of them. So
that's crazy.
I was like,
that's crazy.
Hey, listen, just the best with Felipe. Why not? It makes you feel good. It even feel great saying it. Hey, man, what are you doing?
There you go.
All right, man. So we're coming to the end of the show. And what we like to do is, we like to sit here and do our boom session, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and in uniform manner, all of us is going to sit there and say boom as loud as we can. The objective here is to bust out some speakers. So let me know if all 3 of you guys are ready. 2 of you guys are ready.
Let's do it.
All right, getting the thumbs up, listeners. I hope you turn your radio down on 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom! awesome. Check this out. We just had another fantastic episode of Find Your Freedom with a friend. Just certified them as being the coolest guy alive, right? But he's mentioned just a lot of things, and the biggest thing is two things. One, have a vision, and two, take action. And you're not always going to end up where you start, but if you have a vision and you take action, you will end up in the place that's going to benefit that vision and where you're headed. All right. But what we also need you to do is listen to this episode and give us an honest 5-star review, because that's how we bring on more Felipes onto the platform, so he can and everyone can just give you what they went through, so it can help you out in your journey. And also, we need you to subscribe and share this. We need you to share this with your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle. Share with all your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. Now, until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.